Hi, everybody. I'd like to start by asking you a particular question. I know I've asked myself this question a few times during my 19 years as a realtor. Here's the question. Have you ever asked yourself, what am I doing wrong? Well, hopefully I'm going to answer that question and a lot more today for you. My name is Steve Kodad. I'm a keynote speaker, coach, trainer, author of several books on this particular topic. And I hope after we finish, you get an awful lot of really great information. I've taught in public and private schools, the corporate world for AT&T, real estate associations all over the country, and even CE in the state of Florida. These folks, as you can see, are walking out of a home that they had just taken a look at. They were well qualified, and their home met their needs perfectly. But they didn't stay long, had few questions, and quickly made up their minds to keep looking. Certainly not something you or I ever really like in the business that you are in right now. So what happened? What happened in this situation? Well, this is the information I want you to leave with. It is my belief most real estate agents are focusing on the wrong things to start. You want buyers to feel connected to their listings. But first, you want them to drop their guard, feel very comfortable, be totally curious, and focus on the home itself. And it really doesn't matter how big or small a home is. You can lose their interest very quickly, as I'm sure you know. Probably have done everything you've learned over the years in real estate, and it still didn't sell and had few showings. It's my belief that most of this effort initially should be creating an environment that feels right. Certainly, the needs of a buyer for a $200,000 home and that of a $5 million home are definitely quite different, but both want homes that feel right for them. You're going to hear the following quite a bit. The conscious and subconscious should be instead, and often they are not. Being logical is important. But you already know that purchasing a home is very, very emotional. Emotion is especially important in high-end homes. Certainly don't ignore this for any other listings either. Potential buyer, home buyer, probably has a lot on their mind when making a decision on their next home. The best first impression you give them when they enter your listing, the better chance they will consider your home. You must make the environment feel a certain way to get them to become very interested. Here's a home that I'm not real crazy about. I wouldn't call this a luxury home, but it definitely cost a little bit more than some. But there's something about it that I don't care for. And so, part of my message tonight and part of what I do for folks is to make sure that a home does not come off as uncomfortable or unwelcoming when they pull into the driveway. This home to me is definitely not welcoming. Here's a home that's worth more, but it also has its problems. Probably, probably most real estate agents don't worry about proportion. This is just one of the many things that my training and my coaching are different from everybody else. To me, proportion is something that can affect a decision quite negatively. Now you're looking at this home and you might already pick it out. It's a luxury home worth millions, but the front door is very, very small. And you're probably wondering, well, what can I even do for something like that? Well, there are some ways of handling the situation, but that door is definitely not in proportion with the grandness of this home. Now, that home can get even worse in some ways. In this case right here, there is several things that are wrong. And you can understand that how the pathway is experienced by the potential buyer and applied can really hurt a showing right away for a lot of reasons. So anyway, this is also taking care of the pathways inside of a home too, with respect to what I do. There are four major problems that are in this photo. And if they're not corrected, they quickly make their decision to keep looking. I'd love to share those with you. You walk inside the house, you can see that the foyer is quite tiny also. It's out of proportion with the outside of that house. There are ways to handle this also, ways that I'd love to help you with. Most of them are very simple, very subtle, but a narrow foyer certainly does not enforce or reinforce luxury, but there are ways to take care of that. Here's a home that certainly has an entrance that is very grand. But even in this photo, I would do a few things differently. But what I want you to really get out of this particular home is what happens when you open up the doors and you see an expanse like this. This is a little too much to take in. It's a little much for a potential buyer to really do it a good service. So there are certain things that you might want to handle really quickly. Anything that is extreme hurts the decision by a person. This is an extreme situation. You can't take it all in and really file it away very well. So, ways of handling this, and probably some of you have done this before, if you handle homes like this, is to do something like this. This simple table does several things to help a showing. It breaks it up somewhat so that you can actually admire the stairway. You can admire the chandelier. You can admire the room to the right. So there are things to help when you come with respect to extremes. There are a set of steps you should follow before you make your new luxury listing active. Too many agents don't do those things. They're in such a hurry to make it active. These steps are somewhat unique to you, but usually important. Your high-end seller will have interest that you have an in-depth plan that shows a difference from the 95% of other local agents. At your listing appointment, you lay out each step and why it is so important, why it helps greatly with luxury buyers. So compare your presentation to the other agents. You think they're going to look different? Boy, will they ever. Sellers meet with several agents to decide which one they want to hire, as you know. They will remember you especially. Why? Your emphasis on how a luxury home buyer thinks. From your initial contact to a conversation on the phone to the actual inside listing appointment, you will stand out. There's a myth out there. There's the myth of the rational luxury buyer. In theory, a luxury buyer should be the most rational buyer of all, don't you think? They are educated, successful, experienced decision makers. Many have built companies, several companies, managed portfolios, or navigated complex negotiations. Surely they would approach a home purchase analytically. In practice, the opposite is often true. The more sophisticated the buyer, the more attuned they are to subtle signals. They actually really count on their gut, signals that they never be able to articulate, but instinctively they trust them all the time. These buyers are not impulsive, but they are very sensitive. They read rooms the way others read spreadsheets. They feel shifts in the atmosphere. They notice when something is slightly off, even if they cannot immediately name it. A luxury buyer may tour two homes with identical specifications, same square footage, same view, similar finishes, and feel inexplicably drawn to one while dismissing the other. When asked why, they will offer reasons like better layout, nicer light, more privacy. These reasons are not false, but they are definitely incomplete. They are post-rational explanations layered on top of a deeper, vaster judgment. That judgment usually occurs within moments of entering the property. You need to get things right immediately. Buyers begin evaluating a property the moment they arrive. I'm sure you know that. But they look at the approach to the home, the ease of parking, the path to the entrance, the way the door opens, the quality of light in the first few steps inside. These elements register immediately. The brain is constantly scanning for signs of safety, coherence, and ease. In unfamiliar environments, this scanning intensifies. High net worth individuals who are accustomed to control and competence are particularly responsive to environments that either reinforce or undermine these qualities. If the space feels calm, intentional, and effortless, the buyer relaxes. When the buyer relaxes, they become receptive. When they become receptive, they become imagining ownership. If the space feels awkward, chaotic, or subtly stressful, the buyer may not consciously object, but their body tightens, their attention narrows, their willingness to stretch diminishes, and price now finally becomes a problem. Nothing dramatic needs to be wrong. A slightly constricted entry, an abrupt transition between rooms, lighting that feels harsh rather than welcoming. These are small things, but luxury buyers are not looking for perfection. They're looking for alignment. They are asking a quiet question the entire time they're in your home. Does this environment support the way I want to live and think? The subconscious can stop a buyer's interest quickly if specific things aren't corrected, handled, or considered. I want you to really take this seriously. This was one of the reasons why I got so wrapped up in feng shui when I was in my real estate career of 19 years. I found it and I found that it helped a great deal. That and buyer psychology were really my tools. So please take the subconscious very, very seriously. I'm sure you've heard of the idea of the fight or flight reaction. It is real. It is real. It happens subtly when anyone enters a new environment, even in our modern society. It is important when selling that it immediately is quieted by the following specific steps. I'm bringing up the number 95% for one reason. When I started getting really deeply into the idea of buyer psychology and feng shui, I found out that most decisions are handled by the subconscious, 95% of it. So by taking that lightly, you're probably going to hurt yourself. People often react as, to color. There are colors and combinations of them that work well, and there are some that will create unease for a buyer. Colors have a specific energy they give off, and it can be just enough to stop interest. Everything is energy. How a room is lighted can give off the wrong energy. Life plants can give off energy in great amounts. In most cases, changes are subtle and small, but their effect is huge in a person, especially on higher end real estate clients. Taking away these nagging feelings improves a chance of an offer. There are many things that can transform a showing from so-so to real interest. Humans are so attuned to their feelings. Reducing ones that interfere with a potential buyer's concentration and comfort makes selling easier. Human beings can quickly scan an area and make a quick judgment. One of the things that I do is softening an environment. So one of the things I do all the time, both inside and out. And it's one thing I always recommend to clients. All buyers are strongly influenced by emotional connection and first impressions when deciding whether a property feels right. Their research shows that buyers often know within minutes whether a home feels like the one. This is all coming from the National Association of Realtors. They report that buyers make decisions emotionally first and justify them logically afterward. Buyers are strongly influenced by emotional connection and first impressions when deciding within a property feels right. Sotheby's luxury reports often discuss this lifestyle alignment and emotional aspiration as key drivers in luxury purchases. Their research shows buyers often know within minutes whether a home feels like the one. Here's a quote from Sotheby. Luxury buyers are purchasing a feeling, identity, and lifestyle, not simply square footage. Here's a company that works with neuromarketing that I think you'd find quite interesting. This is from Antonio Damasio's The Neuroscience of Buyer Emotion. Is his quote. People use emotion to make decisions, even when they believe they are being logical. This is from Behavioral Economics and Buyer Psychology, one of their books, Thinking Fast and Slow. People think they make rational choices, but emotion and subconscious impressions heavily influence decisions. People use emotion to make decisions, even when they believe they are being logical, is their quote. And let's now go to another company, and what they need to say is space perception architects. People often react in a particular way. Their quote is, people respond psychologically and emotionally to environments long before conscious evaluations begins. Luxury hospitality brands obsess over this kind of stuff. They have a great quote from the Ritz-Carlton. Luxury is remembered through feeling more than features. And then let's finish this part off of me pulling off a lot of different quotes from a lot of different companies. I'm sure you've heard of the Harvard Business Review. HBR has published extensively on emotional engagement driving purchasing decisions. Got a couple of quotes for you from the Harvard Business Review. Emotionally connected customers are more valuable and more likely to act. Here's another one. Emotionally connected buyers move faster and defend pricing more strongly. This one's a little bit of humor. I hope you'll understand that. I want to get something across to you about the wiring that every human being has. So let's say we have a new sheriff in Tombstone. He has to walk into a saloon called Feeling Lucky to look for someone that he has interest in. What do you think he's thinking about? Well, what if he sees something like this? You know, he's not going to feel very comfortable. Again, we're all wired, all of us wired, all the way back when human beings were walking on the savannah to be unsure, maybe nervous and uncertain when entering a new environment. So you have to take care of this right away if you really want to get people to be making an offer. We need to learning how to handle this response immediately. So let's very lightly handle the idea of getting the feeling. I'm going to give you a few things that I look at and how important they are. But there's so much more to getting the feeling of a particular property. Let's talk about the outside for a second. When I'm evaluating a home, when I'm working with a realtor to try to get their home sold, the first thing I do is I spend a lot of time outside. I'm sure you probably feel like you do that too, but I doubt you do the same things that I do. One of them is locating poison arrows and whether I can remove them or reduce them. And in most cases, it's reducing them. At this point, you don't know maybe what a poison arrow is unless you've done some reading, but it's a very important thing to create comfort and attraction. I definitely soften the exterior, as I've mentioned earlier before, too. And a couple more, I do an awful lot with making sure there is at least some contrast in the flower beds. And then I work heavily on the entrance for a lot of things. But one of them is to make sure it's easy to maneuver. How about the inside? Let's talk about the inside for just a second. Again, going back to are things out of proportion? If things are out of proportion, inside or outside, again, a red flag goes up. They don't know why. So I handle that as quickly as possible. Certainly, I would have to bring up clutter. And you're thinking of, okay, just showing. But to me, even hidden clutter creates a situation that I need to handle to some degree. And let's give me a few more here. Is the lighting appropriate for each area? Is the flow handled well? Is the furniture placement show comfort and security? Security. Here's a real estate agent in front of a house. I'm going to give her a name of Rachel Nelson with Remax Superior Realtors. I made that up. But she could put an ad together like, call me and let me show you my one of a kind system. Here's the example of an ad that might speak to you. My luxury real estate system considers a client's strongest psychological goals and needs. I focus on the most important thing first, the feeling of the property. Ask me how. That's a great opening line right there. Some people will get in contact with Rachel to find out what she's talking about. Here's another ad. I sell luxury homes differently using buyer psychology like you've never seen. In my training, in my coaching, we work on ads and posts together. How about before it is time? You're probably wondering, what do you mean by that? Well, let me read this to you. Again, it's just something that I made up to give you an idea of what is possible. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. My name is Stephanie Robbins. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker. You probably are wondering why I'm reaching out to you. The reason is what I do so differently for clients like you. You see, I would like you and your friends to know about my system before you want to move. Unlike many agents, I have made it my goal to become an expert on buyer psychology for luxury homes. My process is powerful and reduces the stress that accompanies the selling of a home. I would love to meet you at your convenience and show you what I do so differently using my transformative 12-step program. I work exclusively with high-end residents like yours and referrals from pleased former clients. So let's talk about some of the evaluation steps just a few that I go through and that I would love to tell you about. Again, number one, I would be locating poison arrows outside. At this point, you're not sure what those are, but they really do make the showing stressful. They make it stressful, and I can prove it by some data and articles that softening these things and making them either go away or be reduced can really help. I spend a lot of time making sure that the landscaping is right, that it has some contrast and doesn't decrease natural light in the house. One step that I take care of really strongly, and that you should too, is the walk from the car to the front door. All of these things are hitting them consciously and then into their subconscious about whether or not this is going to work well for them. The walk can be very, very important, and a lot of people do not do much with that. Then I start worrying about interior poison arrows. And of course, the entrance is a very pivotal thing with what I do to make sure it's not only dramatic and attractive, but it's memorable and obvious. And does the first impression inside feel safe for the visitor? You're wondering, why would I put the word safe in there? Well, again, I want to make sure that they walk in and immediately feel safe and secure so that they can focus on what's really important, whether or not this is going to be in alignment with them. And here's just a few more. I worry about the aroma. I worry about the flow. I worry about the lighting and whether there's inappropriate colors or there are focal points in each room. Does the house come off as spacious? Now, you're probably wondering, where do you find candidates for luxury homes? This is something that I love to talk to people about. Here's a map that shows you the percentage of millionaires by state. Certainly, they're located in particular areas in more count than others, and that's fine. But you could find information, I can help you find information where they're coming from, where they're looking, even down to the towns and cities. You can see that California, Washington, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York are very, very heavily endowed with millionaires. And let's face it, if you're going to work with luxury homes, you're going to be working with people that have the money to be able to afford the homes that you're listing. But I also want to get it down to the point where is movement happening? Let's take Boise, Idaho. These are the 5 areas where a lot of people are moving from to Boise, Los Angeles, Seattle, Phoenix, Denver, and Portland. The use of LinkedIn, especially, will be extremely helpful if you let me show you how to use it to work with people from those areas and to pinpoint things. How about taking Harrisburg, Pennsylvania? Probably you've not thought a lot about Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I grew up about 60 to 70 miles north of that. Now, Harrisburg is not something that a lot of people think about moving to, but there are areas, there are cities that do have movement there. Harrisburg is a beautiful city. It's the capital of Pennsylvania. It's right on the banks of the Susquehanna River. It's got a lot going for it, but a lot of people maybe not knowing too much about it. But again, there are particular areas that you would pinpoint using things like LinkedIn and statistics that I pull up. So, if you have experience with luxury real estate clients or wish to become involved with them, there are 3 areas that I'd like to really stress that you need to handle well for success in the luxury real estate market. Number one, you have to have a message and a system that makes luxury real estate clients curious and want to hear about from you. Okay? You have got to have something that makes you stand out. You need to have a series of ways to prospect for luxury real estate clients. You need to have a system that actually backs this up and sells homes faster. All three of those things are what I'm all about. This is what I do for real estate agents. So if you need some proof that LinkedIn is best for your real estate business and for the luxury home market, take a look at this. I pulled this up from Google. The estimated share of millionaires on top social media platforms. I've been making this statement for a long, long time that the money, the millionaires, the decision makers, the CEOs are on LinkedIn. These are the people that are going to look to possibly purchase a luxury home in particular areas. If you're spending a lot of time on Facebook trying to do that for your real estate business, I think you're wasting your time a little. So LinkedIn is very, very powerful. And I'd love to show you how I use LinkedIn in so many different ways. So LinkedIn is best for your real estate business in so many ways. Let me give you one. It's called groups. If you've ever been on LinkedIn much, maybe you know about groups. Maybe you use groups, but maybe you're not using it in a particular way. You can name your group luxury real estate. You could call it luxury real estate buyers if you want to be a little more specific, or sellers. Or you can get even more specific, luxury real estate clients in Oregon. Or how about luxury real estate clients in Portland if you want to go down to the city or the town? So you could have as many groups as you want, but probably if you're going to be getting involved with luxury real estate, you should have a group that we can do the following for. We send invitations to specific individuals to join your group. We create LinkedIn posts and direct them to sign up for your group. Your group is a very easy way to be able to discuss things, talk about things, and show that you are the one for them to possibly work with. So I'd like to invite you to learn much more on these three items that help luxury real estate success. I want you to learn these three areas, how they would greatly impact your success in luxury real estate. So if you're interested in going further, in learning more in a very, very inexpensive way, I'd like you to copy and use this link. It's on my website. It's called the 3-week online program. And see how you can discover techniques that will help your business immediately. Immediately. So I want you to understand before we start. There is a way to locate luxury real estate clients that maybe you've never thought of. There is a way to produce better results selling luxury homes. There is a way to stand above the crowded number of agents locally and even nationally. All of those things are covered in what I do. So I really do thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll copy the link above and take a look and see if it's to your benefit. I believe it is. You take care, and I hope to see you or hear from you sometime. Bye bye. Thanks for joining me.